you very much. Now, let's see if we can deal with the one more issue that we have. But I have some messages from people in the business news area, and they say the aviation issue that Abraham refers to has been dealt with extensively in the business news media, so it's not been blocked.
Business news.
And he says that they also suggest that it's not actually, they are not coming here because of any reason. It's because the Nigerian government is hounding them out by not allowing, by its policy not to allow them to repatriate their revenue. So that's what is happening now.
That is not true.
As soon as that
Nigeria,
then you find them
officer
going
in the
back.
aviation industry in Nigeria also said that Accra government is doing something right.
Okay, thank you. And then Dr. Charles Rekubrobe tweets that the government has not been denied access to any section of the media, which means it simply can't get its message across.
Am I right? Did you hear that?
He says that, well, and then he says again that the DKM was supposedly an illegal operation. Okay, why are Bank of Ghana and Registrar General involved in paying money and liquidation if it was an illegal operation? That's question from Dr. Charles Rekubrobe. Okay, the president's charge was that they looked on and they didn't monitor them properly. Yeah, so that was a problem. Okay, now let's see if we can quickly, we have 20 minutes, quickly deal with matters coming out of the Electoral Commission and the presidential aspirants, 12 disqualified, because that is immediate. There's been a balloting for parliamentary slots, so that's now determined. The NDC is third, the NPP is fifth on the ballot. Now, Kweku, I'll start with you. The suits, Dr. Endum's been to the court. The EC has gone to court to seek to abridge the time for the process. And so it does look like by close of next week, we'll have a judgment on that issue. Nana Kunedu is out there also. All the others, we understand that the PNC has also written to the EC, has written through its lawyers, Dr. Raymond Atuguba, written to say they should restore Dr. Mahama. If they don't, well, they will also sue. The CJ has announced that the courts are going to sit. 15 courts in Accra alone. Is it 15? 5 courts in Accra alone. And they're going to sit every day, including weekends, 9 to 6 p.m.
Oh. Yeah. Your take.
Right.
Early morning.
Right.
Yeah, before the program started was good. And that's the kind of drift I have. You know, there were people who were worried.
I understand you are also attending the Chief Justice's Forum on Monday, and so you will be part of the processes as to see what the judiciary can better do to improve these processes.
No, I'm not aware
That's
of
my
that.
information.
Okay, I hear you. You know, so there's no danger.
Okay.
December 7th, January 7th are casting iron. We're going through that. The judiciary is so minded that they are fast-tracking the process. We'll leave the rest to the courts.
There's only filed an affidavit and he's afraid. He uses the word, it might derail the calendar.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
December 7 is casting iron.
Okay.
Same with 7 January.
Okay.
Where hopefully we'll have a change in the situation. So this is clear cut. Yeah. But you see, there's one reason why I love this litigation, because as somebody who doesn't understand law, I've read the CI 1494. I've heard lawyers debate it. I'm happy that at least we'll have a determination of that gray area. Does the EC have the power to disqualify a candidate if in the process of checking the nomination forms he sees fraud or forgery without reference to the court? Does the EC have that power? Because people have raised the issue of the fact that you must give the person a chance to go through. Yeah. I'm saying, do I give you a chance when I think it's fraud, or do I call the police?
In fact, in the EC's affidavit to the court, it says Dr. Indum should not be giving a hearing because he came before the EC and admitted that what was in there was fraudulent.
Yeah, so we're going to have to deal with that once and for all. That if I see fraud, Do I call you, invite you to, and I'm not talking here Dr. Ndu massage.
Right.
Do I call you to come and deal with a fraud? Or can I call the police instantly to take you away because you are a suspect? The court will give a determination. Then that can give some weight to the provision in the CI 94 as we move forward.
How about the police that is now going after them? Yesterday they said by close of day yesterday, if you did not report yourself, they will come arrest you.
I'm told some have gone.
Yes.
Those who haven't gone should go. It's no big deal. You know, don't let's create a crisis out of that. Has Mrs. Rollins gone?
I'm not aware.
I'm pleading with her to go. I'm actually indifferent to her plight.
Why is she alone?
Everybody.
Why is she alone?
Well, they said if you don't come, they will arrest you. And that's
former First Lady, Mr. Rollins says, you know, wife, spouse.
Everyone is equal before the law.
I know, but I'm being a bit sensitive to her plight in this case, and I'm pleading with her if she would go, let her go. I asked the rest to follow, but Mrs. Rollins, please proceed to the police station.
Okay, maybe she's already done so.
Yeah,
and she's in good hands. Her lawyers,
of course.
Right.
Yeah, very powerful lawyers.
Yes. What do you say?
Well, but I think my take really is on what I consider to be an imminent constitutional crisis.
Wow.
Really?
Yes, I mean, because you know that under the Constitution, the last time we can commence presidential election, is 7th December.
Sure.
Beyond 7th December, we cannot.
Yes.
And it's an entrenched provision. You understand? It's an entrenched provision.
No, that one is not exactly. It's the January 7th one. The December 7th.
Dissolution of the House.
That's why you want to remove it to November.
No,
Yes.
but
Yes.
Listen, I'm saying that it is clear in the Constitution that we can commence presidential election from even October. But up to 7th December, beyond that, you cannot hold presidential elections.
I hear you.
Under the Constitution. So that is my worry.
Because
we can start from 7th and even end on the 10th of December. But you cannot commence on the 8th. That will be unconstitutional. And so we would need to keep that in mind. So as some of them have not yet commenced, and once they do so, there will be application for injunction, even if it's not moved, your hands are tied. We need to really look at it. The second one is, so if we are not able to hold elections on the 7th of December, and we go into 7th January, what becomes of the position of the president now? When you look at the Constitution, and Article 113, in the case of Parliament, Parliament can pass a resolution to extend its own time, even year on, but not for 4 years. There's no, and that even is conditional, where the state is at war, actual war, or a state of emergency. Maybe an injunction can be stretched to amount to that. But I am yet to see an analogous provision under the executive,
of the tenure of the president.
Of the executive. And the Constitution clearly says that Article 63, 2, and 69, they all deal with it, that once the president term ends 4 years from the date of swearing in. So on 7th January, his term ends. And there should be no vacancy in terms of the executive.
But people say you are stretching this. We won't get there, so let's forget
something.
It. Particularly now that 17 courts have been dedicated to deal with this.
I have heard some of the candidates say they will go as far as the Supreme Court. Is it not their right? And once they file an injunction or a stay of execution or a sort, whether it is frivolous in your mind or not, until the court hears it, it ties your hands. Of course, when a person is also charged by a law to perform a function, the court are usually slow to grant such applications. But it is not for you to determine that until the motion has been heard.
From what I understand, up to the Supreme Court particularly, they have gone to these, seminars, and they are prepared. You think they've just been sitting there and fold their arms? They are prepared, and they are going to deal with these matters on. You bring an issue today, and maybe by close of week they are done with it.
Don't worry. Don't forget that the EC have their timetable as well. I mean, and we have barely about this 7 weeks or so to go, or 8 weeks, and the EC's one will be heard. Let's say the PPP one on Tuesday. Even if the court rules on that day, there are others.
Right.
And I know the Nanakunedu one. There's actually an application for injunction as well pending. apart from the main suit. So I think that also to speed up, the courts will insist that once you file such an application, you must also attach your statement of case.
Okay.
So that you come the first day, you are not now going to engage in long submissions.
You don't know if all of them are going by application. Some may go by a rate. That's another long process.
Of course, but even though this is a matter of judicial review, some can even engage in such maybe mechanisms to go by even the wrong procedure. And it will have to take something. So
how can some people with that wicked
and
do that deliberately?
There's a conspiracy theory.
Right.
No, but the person may make a mistake. I mean, lawyers make mistakes in terms of the originating process.
Okay.
But so the point is, let us envisage, let us engage in such discussion, because there is a possibility that we may not meet, one, the EC's timetable, and two, but it also tells you that why as a nation we always would like to do the things we are supposed to do on the last day, because beyond 7th we can't hold elections.
The EC says it had been bogged down by suits up till now. So look, there have been too many suits up to this point.
I sympathize with them, but the point is, nothing stopped them in January when quite a number of those who were desirous of contesting this presidential election were already known. So around January, you tell them, by June, we will start collecting these forms from you. But the forms are ready in January. Start coming for them.
You had a voters register to deal with first.
Nothing. That is another matter. No law says that you should only deal with voters register only in the year of election or very close to the election. Vote registration can even happen on the day of election.
This is where they are complaining that some of the people you say were multiple registrants, we didn't know because we didn't have the register. They must have the register supplied to them so they can use them to check some of these things.
These are some of the matters that are in court. But for me, talking about the EC's own power, then one day we will take the EC to court that, okay, your opponent tempered for me during the election. And for Amaliba, okay, you can nullify that vote. I will bring Mr. Kokubaku. He is likely to vote for me. He knows to vote for me alone. So you can discount that one. So the EC may not even have the power to declare any spoiled ballot.
That's an interesting scenario. Let me hear from Amalba too. Why are the others seem to be delaying? Because if they had all filed like quickly, the court may be minded to put all of them together, consolidate their cases, right, and then do a one trial off. But now one person is going, the others are slowing. Yeah. So the EC2 is running for time.
I'm told that there's a deliberate attempt for them to file sequentially.
Wow.
I'm told, but that will not be in the best interest of the nation.
And it's also not the case where one case determined affects everybody.
No. All of them
case by case
have
basis.
Their various interests, and so this must be determined appropriately. But you see, when you look at the matter, the matters that are going to court, they are very simple matters that can be disposed of in one day. It is about, did the EC act appropriately or inappropriately? That's all.
That's it.
So indeed, a judge can actually sit in his after you file the process, sit in his chambers, and then come out and make pronouncement and indicate that this was wrong, so bring him back, or EC has acted appropriately. Because it's about the regulation 94. The EC says that you have gone for 2 signatures. That is wrong, and I'm going to disqualify you. The EC has taken that decision. Now you are going to court. What the court has to determine is one simple issue. Did the commissioner act appropriately by interpreting the regulation to mean that you have been disqualified? That's all. So I don't think that this will derail the process. In any case, there are residuary powers in this constitution which allows Parliament to deal with matters that have not been provided for. So that issue of no president on this day will not arise. So because yes, you talked about
Parliament can extend its own life, but cannot do that.
There are residual powers.
That depends on the 2 conditions.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, but that would be an emergency. That would be a state of emergency.
But it's Parliament's life, not that of president.
And I'm saying that Parliament has residual powers.
He says they have residual powers. They can invoke that and extend the life of the president.
And apply it. Yes, they can apply it.
Not to the president.
So,
to the
for me,
the Nigerian constitution provides for that,
Okay.
but ours doesn't.
Okay.
So
Go
for
ahead.
me, I do not think that we'll even get to that point.
Right.
Because when you look at the conduct of the Chief Justice, she's even preparing herself to deal with these matters by putting out 17 courts.
You're right.
The judges, he just told you, they've gone through this election manual. They have been going to school on it. So they themselves are positioning themselves to
This
deal with
election
these
manual,
matters. This election manual.
the judicial service, they do it every year. But this one is for 2012. They would launch and distribute the one for 2016 to Monday.
Yes.
Right.
So I don't think that these fears that you are raising is unfounded. I don't think that we'll get to that point.
Describe it as unfounded. It's a possibility.
Probably you are sounding notice, but I don't think that we'll get there.
Well,
Okay.
All institutions.
He's an alarmist for you, right?
all institutions are on guard to deal with this situation.
All right. Yes.
Thank you very much. I mean, we've had various points. I want to bring a
Some
slightly...
say the EC is bringing all of this onto
Well, you see,
itself.
it's when I first heard that so many people have disqualified. My first initial reaction was, how did we get to this situation? Because my point of the matter is that this is not the first election we've held. And I dare say, and the question becomes one of intent. Was it a mistake? Or was it where we may be going through where people are now saying it's actually a criminal activity?
This is an EC that has pledged that it is going to stick to the law.
See, absolutely, you must. Nobody is saying you should not apply the law.
It's going to enforce the law.
But in the process of applying the law, you also have a duty to make sure you manage. This is a living constitution.
To entertain fraudsters.
It's not
is that what you're saying?
The question is a matter of intent. What was the intent? And that is where the dialogue comes in. What was the intent? That's why one of the questions I kept asking a lot of people, we've all filled forms before. And if you know the time you must put let's say you're applying for a job or you are going to, you must put such a date. Before you put that form there, you have done some quiet checking to make sure, have I filled this thing right? Have I done? And so I keep asking myself, was that to and fro happening quietly? I'm bringing a slightly different, I'm not saying I'm not questioning whether or not the EC has or hasn't had the power. That's for the courts to determine. But I just felt personally, because some of these eminent people in our society, this is not the first time they have gone to stand. So I kept asking myself the question, what has changed? Is it because we had got complacent? Is it because the EC for the first time is actually applying the law?
That's right.
Or is it a combination of both? We've talked about a number of these things. But I come from a non-lawyer. But somebody who's unfortunately had to sit a lot of times with lawyers. I always find that should be as I say, the last resort, not the first resort.
Okay.
And even when you go to the last resort, what is the first thing to do when you go to a case in the court?
Well, some are saying you don't negotiate crime, so this is crime. So.
Even if you've got, this is why I'm asking the question. In most courts, they ask you, before even the case is heard, in certain jurisdictions and based on
Pre-trial, you mean?
is they will tell you, sit down and...
not in certain jurisdictions. It happens
Hear me out.
yeah.
It's a question of, that's why I asked the question, is it intent? What is the intent? Was this crime?
But some crimes are strict
Yeah,
liability.
I am with
in
you.
Ghana,
That is what I'm asking.
unless it is a misdemeanor or it's a non-aggravated offense.
Got it.
Then you
Got
can
it.
go
So
and
that's
settle.
why I'm saying that this is not the first time a number of these eminent people have gone to election and they've managed to pass it. So my question is, was there an intent different? That's what I'm coming to.
Maybe was disqualified last time.
She was. I generally, as a general,
I don't like feeling for.
I want to encourage greater parties to participate rather than less. I'm just saying this on the basis. But the question is the question comes through is that I take the point made earlier. We should not allow ourselves to get to a situation where in the 11th hour, that will not help us in any form.
Okay.
We should deal with this.
Can you answer this question straight? One of our viewers or listener is asking the question, well, in the absence of the president, the CJ takes over. Is that not the case?
Well, I haven't seen.
Or the CJ and Parliament.
In fact,
the Speaker, if they are not there, it's the CJ that takes over.
The situation, Article 60 situation where if the president, the vice, and the speaker are incapable or have travelled,
absent.
The CJ's acting itself has been unconstitutional because the constitution doesn't provide that the CJ can act in the absence of these three. That's why in recent times,
that's because it's a different kettle of fish, right?
She refused to even act. So, and there is no provision.
How do you make of the criminal invitations, criminal summons?
Well, the criminal, I think that most of it was rather those who nominated them, who were engaged in it.
Right.
But of course, whether they are bettors or conspirators, when they go there, the
investigations will determine.
They will investigate to see, because they appear to be the beneficiaries of that kind of thing. And so I think they can just go give their version. It is also saying, but one thing, the CI also specifies that where an EC official fails to comply with the law, he must also face criminal charges.
Okay, so they are complying, so they don't face criminal charges. Ebi, do you think sincerely that they will make any successful prosecution with the flag bearers?
If we are a country not ruled by men, but ruled by law.
And of course, we are not.
I'm sure.
He's not a lawyer. He spoke about intention.
We are ruled by law.
It's intention.
No,
I'm talking about the
yes,
intention.
but the intention is a matter to be determined by the court.
Agreed.
So you cannot talk about intention now when investigations are going on.
Okay.
So the investigations would have to be completed, and if they think that it merits to be sent to court, then they'll go to court.
Of course, the CJ must.
And so, for me, I think that I'm seeing a commissioner who, for once, wants to ensure that the rules are obeyed. She is, for me, a
It's
positive.
a commission. It's a
So,
commission.
so the previous one
Yes.
didn't
It's
enforce
a
the law?
commission's decision,
No, we
not a
are.
commission.
No, that's not what
All
I'm
right,
saying.
thank you very much.
She's a
Let me see
positive.
how
And she
many
thinks that the law-
decision.
the
how
law-
many
the
more
law must-
messages I can take before we go. And thank you very much. You've been watching Newsfile. My guests have been Abdul Malik Kwekubako, who is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide News by Yao Pong, is a legal practitioner. He teaches at Central University. Abraham Amaleba is a member of the NDC legal team, and Robert Ahumka Lindsay is policy advisor, New Patriotic Party. And just a couple of your questions, and each, I said questions rather. Now, Caitlin writes and says, Adi says, why are you not raising the point the NDC has funded many stations, including Muntie and so on and so forth? Well, there are some who also say that there's a former minister who owns as many as 11 stations. There's also another group, is it the Zira group, which also has about 13 stations. Yeah, 13 stations. And so what's the president talking about? So you have the majority of the private stations presently seeming to be sympathetic.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a matter of access
to the government.
It's not a matter of access.
The argument is not
Quickly he's going back to his image question.
NDC have
Right.
or the MPP
Okay, so thank you very much.
The
This
image of the
has been
president is clean.
This has been Newsfile.
The image
I'm
of
Samson
the
Ladi.
messages.
Anyanini, have a good afternoon.